My name is Ethan Miller. I was a quiet, unassuming employee, not rich by any means, but my wife, Eleanor Vance, and I had always lived a life of mutual respect. I was in my 90s, lying on my deathbed, when I suddenly noticed the breathing of my wife in the bed next to me turn ragged. She had been resting quietly, her own health failing, but now she seemed to be slipping into delirium. With a trembling hand, I reached out and clasped her cool one, my voice as faint as a feather falling on the pillow. "I'm sorry, my dear, to make you see me off at the very end." We had been married for decades, a couple who had chosen to be childless. We were always respectful. Our life together was peaceful, but that was all it had ever been. Before I could finish, her eyes fluttered open. A ripple of emotion I had never seen before flickered in their cloudy depths. Her voice was a raw, broken whisper. "Brian, if we could do it all over again, I would never let you." Her last word dissolved into the air, like a dry leaf swept away by the wind. Eleanor Vance, the woman who had been my respectful partner for over 70 years, let her hand fall limp. I was supposed to be the first to cross that final threshold, but in the end, she went before me. Her unfinished sentence was a fine needle that pierced the softest part of my heart. And that name, Brian, materialized like a fog, shrouding my memories. I didn't dwell on it because I had my own regrets that I could never let go of. Stella Reed, a name that was an eternal ache in my soul. After she found out I had gotten married all those years ago, she fell into a deep depression. Before she even turned 30, she was gone, her spirit worn down by sorrow. In my final moments of consciousness, I thought I saw a flash of white light. My body felt like it was being pulled toward it, uncontrollably. The last thing I remember was the blare of monitors and the rush of doctors and nurses surrounding us. When I opened my eyes again, I found that the withered skin of my hands was firm and smooth, returned to its former youthful vitality. I looked down. I was wearing a painfully familiar outfit, crisp black dress slacks, and a perfectly ironed white button-down, a tie knotted neatly at my collar. Every crease was a testament to a life of precision. "What is this?" Staring at my unwrinkled hands, I moved as if possessed, striding quickly toward the office restroom. The reflection in the mirror froze me in place. A full head of thick, dark hair, a face with sharp, defined angles, glowing with the vibrancy of youth. A familiar blue lanyard hung from my neck, the ID badge resting perfectly against my shirt pocket. This was my standard uniform for my first few years at the company. The man in the mirror was young and full of life, yet his eyes held a weariness that was decades too old. "When the world is happening to me?" I whispered to the reflection, my fingertips cold against the glass. The young face stared back, its eyes filled with an unsettling mix of fear and confusion. I leaned closer, almost begging it for an answer. Of course, the reflection said nothing. It only mirrored my trembling lips and bewildered eyes, silently questioning the absurd reality I found myself in. "Ethan, hiding out in the bathroom on company time?" A familiar, teasing voice came from behind me. It was my supervisor, Leo Martinez. He was a stickler for rules, but had a soft spot for the new hires, often buying us dessert out of his own pocket after a long night of overtime. The moment our eyes met, he must have seen that same unsettling weariness, that deep-seated exhaustion that didn't belong on my face. He clapped a hand on my back. "Hey, what's wrong? You look pale. You feeling sick?" I didn't answer, letting his concerned gaze wash over me as my mind reeled back to that final moment. Eleanor, gripping my hand, her voice weak but clear. "We could do it all over again. If we could do it all over again." The thought echoed in my mind, growing louder and clearer until it slammed into the core of my being. Could it be, was I reborn? The ridiculous idea surfaced, but I instinctively crushed it. It was easier to believe I was in the middle of a long, elaborate dream, a dream that spanned an entire lifetime, than to accept something as bizarre and unbelievable as reincarnation. "Hey, Ethan, you okay?" Leo's voice pulled me back from the edge. Sorry, Leo. I actually don't feel so great. I think I need to take a sick day," I said, forcing a weak smile. "All right, go on home and get some rest," he said, waving me off. Then he couldn't help but add, "You should probably see a doctor. Can't be falling apart at your age. You'll pay for it when you're older." He paused, then added with a half-joking grin. Count yourself lucky. If this was some cutthroat corporation, they'd let you drop dead at your desk, then have their lawyer spin it, so they wouldn't have to pay your family a dime. Hey, where are you going? I wasn't finished. Man, kids these days are so impatient. Leo watched my hasty retreat, shaking his head. If he hadn't seen that strange, haunted look in my eyes, he would have sworn I was just making an excuse to slack off. I returned to my old desk, the very first one I was assigned when I joined the company. I've been promoted and moved several times since then, but this was the desk that had witnessed my greenest and most unforgettable years. I gave my head a sharp shake, forcing the memories down. My knuckles turned white as I gripped the black suit jacket hanging on the back of my chair. I spun around and walked quickly out of the office. Whether it was a dream or a second chance at this moment, before anything had been set in stone, my mind was consumed by one thing. One person. Sitting in the back of an Uber, my hands trembled as I tapped frantically on my phone's screen. Words jumbled in my head. I typed and deleted, my fingers dancing anxiously across the keyboard. But she messaged me, first frowny face, "What's up?" The little typing bubble has been popping up for 5 minutes. Did you but dial my chat window? Staring at the familiar words, my vision blurred. I took a deep, shuddering breath, trying to force down the lump forming in my throat. Dude? Bad breakup? The driver asked, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. I wiped my eyes and shook my head. No, got fired. I noticed in the reflection that the driver was a young guy, probably my age, with sharp features and a confident air. He had the kind of face you'd expect to see in a magazine, not behind the wheel of a Toyota Camry. No, that's not it either. Sir, could you please just let me have a minute? My voice cracked. I feel like I woke up from a really long dream. Like a whole lifetime long. Geez, a grown man crying over a dream, the driver said, shooting me another glance. Look on the bright side, man. At least it was just a dream, right? You're here now, perfectly fine. He completely ignored my request and kept on with his unsolicited advice. Please, can you just be quiet? I clutched my phone, my head spinning. My brain feels like a tangled mess right now. If you don't stop, I'm going to have to report you. The threat came out as a sob, surprising even me. I guess a chaotic mind and a chatty driver really can push a person to the breaking point. All right. You do you. I'll shut up, the driver said, making an exaggerated zipper motion across his lips before turning his attention back to the road. My phone buzzed, the screen lighting up with another message from her frowny face. Seriously, what's going on? Is your phone stuck in your pocket again? Maybe letting out that sob had released some of the pressure, because my chest felt strangely lighter. I wiped my eyes again and quickly typed out a sentence, hitting send before I could second-guess myself. Stella, can we meet? At our spot on Sunset Cove. The reply was almost instantaneous. What about work? It's a weekday. I took the day off. I need to see you. This time, Stella took a moment to reply. What's all this about? Nothing. It's just, I miss you. More than ever. EW, why are you being so cheesy all of a sudden? Didn't we just see each other yesterday? Her reply made me picture her scrunching her nose, a little smile playing on her lips. Okay, fine. I'll ask my boss for the afternoon off. See you in a bit. After that message, the chat went quiet. Just then, the car pulled over in front of a flower shop. The driver kept catching my eye in the rearview mirror, wiggling his eyebrows. Seeing my confused look, he finally broke his silence. Dude, you're meeting a girl, and you're not going to buy her flowers. How do you know I'm meeting someone? I asked, wondering if he'd been reading over my shoulder. Hello. Sunset Cove is like the #1 date spot in the city. You're not going there to close a business deal, are you? The look he gave me in the mirror made it clear he thought I was a complete idiot. His words jolted me back to reality. I got out, went into the shop, and bought a bouquet of hydrangeas. The florist expertly arranged them with baby's breath, eucalyptus, and Queen Anne's lace. The cluster of blue and purple blossoms, nestled among specks of green, looked incredibly romantic. Whoa, not bad, kid. Good taste, the driver said with a thumbs up as I got back in. He started the car and pulled back into traffic. Hey, I'm really sorry about earlier, I said, feeling embarrassed about my outburst. My head was a mess. You were just trying to be nice, and I threatened to report you. No worries, man. We all have those days, he said with a wave of his hand. He glanced at the lanyard still around my neck. You might want to tuck that thing away before your date. Kills the mood. I looked down and quickly took off the ID badge, placing it carefully in the inside pocket of my jacket as I waited to arrive. The driver, of course, couldn't resist striking up another conversation. I learned his name was Julian, and he was just driving for Uber to get out of the house and experience life. That's when I noticed that the car, while unassuming on the outside, had a surprisingly luxurious interior. There was even a playful reserved for the Mrs. sticker on the passenger side dashboard. So, what do you do when you're not experiencing life as an Uber driver? I asked, suddenly feeling out of place. This interior looks like it costs a fortune. Any one of the custom accessories in his car probably cost more than my entire net worth. I'm not anybody special, just a guy who got bored sitting at home, Julian said as he pulled up to the curb at Sunset Cove. He tapped his phone to end the trip. Here you are. Good luck, kid. Go get her. As I got out, he leaned over with a conspiratorial grin. Need me to wait around? I can recommend a good hotel for later. The smile froze on my face. Any goodwill I'd built up for him shattered instantly. I quickly paid the fare, grabbed the flowers, and slammed the door. What's with the attitude? I was just trying to be helped. Julian's voice was cut off by the solid thud of the door. The soundproofing on this car, I noted, was excellent. I walked down to the beach, sent Stella my location, and sat down on a bench overlooking the water, the bouquet of hydrangeas resting on my lap. It might have been a few minutes or a full hour. I was staring at my phone, anxiously tapping my thumb against the screen, when a sudden chill hit the back of my neck. A cold can of soda, beaded with condensation, was pressed against my skin, making me jump. Sorry for the wait. This is my peace offering, Stella's bright, playful voice chimed from behind me. She giggled at my startled reaction. I turned to see her standing there in her work clothes, a can of Coke in each hand and a mischievous smile on her face. My throat tightened. For a moment, I didn't know what to say. I numbly held up the bouquet. The blue and purple flowers, warmed by the summer breeze, still held tiny, glistening drops of water on their petals. For me, she tilted her head, her fingers toying with the tab on one of the cans. But my hands are full. She leaned in close, her nose lightly brushing against the blossoms as her eyelashes cast long shadows in the afternoon sun. Thank you, she said, drawing out the words playfully. So what's the special occasion? You didn't drag me out of work just to give me flowers, did you? When she looked up, the sea breeze swept a stray piece of hair from her temple, revealing a small pearl earring. No, I just wanted to see you. I chugged my Coke, took the other can from her, and draped my jacket over my arm. Then I took her free hand, lacing my fingers through hers, and we started walking along the shore of Sunset Cove. In that moment, I stopped caring whether this was real or a dream. All that mattered was holding her hand, taking one slow step at a time. 1,000 words were lodged in my throat, but none of them seemed necessary. Every grand declaration felt pale and inadequate. I just wanted to walk with her like this, slowly, through the long years. Until the end of time, until all was quiet. My unusual silence seemed to unsettle the normally bubbly Stella. Her bright eyes darted around, pretending to take in the scenery, but I could see her sneaking glances at my face from the corner of her eye. What is it? I asked softly, catching her gaze. Stella's usual playfulness was gone, replaced by a flicker of worry. Is something wrong? Did something happen? Nothing's wrong, I said, but my eyes were locked on her, a wave of emotion so powerful it felt like it would burst from my chest. You've been acting weird ever since you got here. She circled me, studying me as if I were a puzzle. Did you get bad news from a doctor's checkup or something? Hearing those words, doctor's checkup, my mind flashed to the memory of her, fading away before she was 30. In that instant, I couldn't hold it in any longer. I love you. The 3 words slipped out, and I felt her flinch. What are you talking about? She stammered, trying to laugh it off, but the tips of her ears turned a bright pink. That's so random. I love you, I repeated, my voice thick with emotion. Okay, I heard you, she said, her grip tightening on my hand as if to stop me from saying more. I love you, Stella Reed. I stared at her, my eyes starting to burn, blurring the face I had longed to see for an entire lifetime. I love you, I said again and again, as if I could never say it enough. I know, she whispered, seeming to understand the unspoken weight behind my words. She leaned against me, and we stood there in silence. We walked along the coastline, from the warm afternoon sun to the golden hour of sunset, and finally, into the deep blue of night, the sky glittering with a tapestry of stars. The waves crashed, the stars blinked, and time flowed gently around us. "Stella, will you marry me?" I asked, standing under the vast, starry sky. I looked down at her beautiful face, my fingertips gently tracing the line of her jaw. "Yes," she breathed, melting into my arms. After a long moment, she tilted her head back, her star-flecked eyes full of confusion. "Ethan, what is going on with you today?" "I had a dream," I began, telling her a condensed version of the absurd dream. "I dreamed I lost you. For the rest of my life, I was like an automaton, living with a woman who was a complete stranger to me." Before I could finish, she gave my shin a sharp kick and jumped back. "Oh, I see. So you go and marry someone else in your dream, and only when you wake up do you remember me. I knew something was off with you today. I'm sorry." Her playful, jealous accusation left me speechless. I could only hang my head. Stella turned away, but I could hear the smile in her voice. "Fine. City Hall. Tomorrow morning." "Okay." At that moment, I felt a surge of happiness so intense it nearly choked me. "And you are not allowed to think about her." She spun back around, poking my chest with each word. "This is purely a preventative measure. I can't have some dream woman crawling out of your subconscious to steal my man." She tried to hold a serious face, but broke into a laugh, a sound that outshone the moon above us. It felt like all the light in the sky was just there to accentuate her smile. It occurred to me then that my previous life, that cold mechanical existence where every day clicked into place like gears in a machine, might have just been the long, quiet prelude to this single, perfect moment. Like tending a fire through a long, frozen night, all those years of just going through the motions have been forged into this single, brilliant spark of reunion. 3. The next morning, Stella and I went to the county clerk's office and officially registered our marriage. When it was time to take the photo for our marriage license, I found myself hunching over, an unconscious habit from my old age. Stella gently placed a hand on my shoulder. "Stand up straight," she whispered. "This is the most important picture of our lives." Looking at the photo on the license, I saw a look of pure, unadulterated happiness in Stella's eyes that I'd never witnessed before, a happiness that was mirrored in my own. When we got home that afternoon, both sets of our parents were sitting in the living room. They stared at the 2 red marriage certificates, a look of disbelief on their faces. "Well, we always knew this day would come," my father said, scratching his head as his eyes shifted between us. "But wasn't this a little sudden?" Stella's father, Mr. Reed, shot me a look sharp enough to kill, but her mother smoothed things over with a smile. "Oh, honey, it was bound to happen. What's the difference if it's now or later?" "That's not what I'm mad about." Mr. Reed's brow furrowed, his gaze drilling into me. This boy swore up and down he was going to build a career before he asked for Stella's hand. "What is this?" His voice grew stern, his fingers tapping an impatient rhythm on the arm of the sofa. "Ethan, you tell me the truth. Did you and our Stella?" "You know." Before I could answer, Stella linked her arm through her father's. "Dad, what are you thinking? I'm the one who dragged him to City Hall. You know how traditional Ethan is. I was worried some other girl would snatch him up, so I decided to make it official and lock him down." She winked at me, emphasizing the words, "make it official." I turned to Mr. Reed and spoke with all the sincerity I could muster. "Sir, I've had a lot of time to think. People always say build a family, build a career, but I realize now you need the family first to have a foundation to build on. Stella and I grew up together. I can't let her wait any longer, and I can't deny how I feel. I swear I will protect her, just like I always have, and never let her feel an ounce of pain. I will work my hardest to give her a happy, stable home." Mr. Reed didn't reply, just stared at me with his arms crossed. It was Mrs. Reed who smiled and waved a hand at me. "Silly boy, you're still calling him sir?" It dawned on me. "Dad," I said, my voice trembling with emotion. "All right, son, get up," Mr. Reed said, finally smiling as he helped me to my feet. He pulled a bank card from his wallet. "Here, this is for you too. It's not a fortune, but it's enough to get you started with furniture." From now on, you have to support each other and build a good life together. I can't take this, Dad. This is your hard-earned money, I said, trying to hand the card back. Don't be an idiot. Take it, my own father said, giving me a light smack on the back of the head. He then produced a card of his own and placed it in Stella's hand. Sweetheart, this is our wedding gift to you. Both our families have been putting this away for you kids since you were little. It should be enough for a down payment on a house. Thank you, Dad. Thank you, Mom, Stella and I said in unison, our hands clasped together, overcome with gratitude. All right, enough of that. Let's eat, my mother said, wiping her hands on her apron. Helen, let's go get the food you made. We're all one big family today. The two mothers bustled off to the Reed's house across the street, returning with platters of food they had already prepared. During dinner, our fathers raised their glasses, and, as the whiskey flowed, they found themselves laughing and crying at the same time, arms slung over each other's shoulders as they reminisced about old times. Our wedding was a rushed affair, with only our immediate families and a few close friends and colleagues in attendance. During the reception, as Stella and I made our way to the table with my coworkers, my supervisor, Leo Martinez, stood up with a grin. He downed his drink in one gulp and clapped me on the shoulder. Attaboy, Ethan, when you took that sick day, I thought it was something serious. Turns out you were just in a hurry to marry this beautiful woman. He shot a glance at Stella, earning a chuckle from the table. You kept this one quiet, kid. There are a few girls at the office who practically starved themselves at lunch when they heard you got married out of the blue. Yeah, I scratched the back of my neck, my ears burning. I squeezed Stella's hand. I used to have my priorities mixed up. I get it now. Building a family gives you a sense of responsibility, a clear direction. I turned to Leo and raised my glass. Don't you worry. With you leading the way, I'll work twice as hard. I've got to deliver for the company and provide for my family now. And what about me? Stella squeezed my hand back, her eyes sparkling. Now that we're a team, I'm pulling my weight too. Don't you dare try to carry everything on your own shoulders. It's 2025. A woman can hold up her half of the sky, you know. She raised her glass, her smile radiant. Leo, you'll have to keep pushing our Ethan to be his best. All right. Enough with the formalities. This is a celebration. Let's drink to the happy couple. May you have a long and happy life together, and may you be blessed with children soon. His toast broke the ice, and soon both tables of colleagues were on their feet, the clinking of glasses and bursts of laughter filling the room. As the night wore on, someone discovered that our two companies actually did business with each other, which sparked a whole new round of lively conversation. By the time the reception ended, it was late. Stella helped me, unsteady on my feet and reeking of alcohol, to our hotel room and reached out to unbutton my shirt. Perhaps it was a phantom pain from a life I'd left behind, but for a split second, Eleanor's face flashed in my mind. I instinctively tensed up, pulling my shirt closed. Don't touch me, I slurred. I have a wife now. You silly drunk, what are you talking about? Stella couldn't help but laugh at the sight of me, clutching my clothes like a damsel in distress. Then, remembering the dream I'd told her about, she leaned in close to my ear, her voice a mischievous whisper. Oh really? You have a wife? What's her name? Get away. I really do. Have a wife. Her name is Stella. Reed. I mumbled, my words thick with intoxication. I won't. Ever. Oomph. Okay, you pass, she said, satisfied. She cupped my face in her hands. Now look at me. Who am I? You. Stella. Through my drunken haze, I saw her, dressed in a beautiful red dress. Whether it was the alcohol or a wave of overwhelming emotion, I pulled her into a fierce embrace. My wife. My Stella. My sudden movement sent us tumbling onto the bed, with me landing on top of her. Ow! Ethan, be gentle. You're crushing me, she yelped, giving me a sharp pinch in the side. The pain was enough to clear some of the fog from my head. Stella. I rubbed my side, looking at her with a wounded expression. She sat up. So, can I take your clothes off now? She asked. I can. Do it myself, I mumbled, fumbling clumsily with the buttons. Hey, stop. This suit is a rental. We'll have to pay for it if you rip it. Stella grabbed my hands, then carefully and gently helped me out of the jacket and shirt. The moment the heavy formal wear was off, I couldn't hold back any longer. I wrapped my arms around her, holding her tight. Wife, we're finally Finally married. Look at you. Like a starving wolf who's just found a lamb. She murmured, her cheeks flushing. She knew what was coming next, but she couldn't help whispering, "You have to be nice to me, you hear? This is my first time. I'm a little scared." In that moment, all of Stella's usual playful energy was gone, replaced by a shy vulnerability. Her fingers nervously twisted the hem of her dress. "You have to be gentle. You know how much I hate pain. I can't even handle getting a shot." Looking at her face flushed like a ripe apple, I leaned in and kissed her. "And we'll draw a curtain on the rest of that scene." "You, Stella," seeing that I had fallen fast asleep, gave me a light, indignant kick, but a sweet smile spread across her face. "They say a man's first time is always fast. I guess that means it was Ethan's first time too." The thought had barely crossed her mind before she shook her head. "What am I even thinking?" She pushed the silly thoughts aside and curled up in my arms like a contented cat, listening to the rhythm of our breathing as she drifted off to sleep. Married life was bliss. We took our honeymoon, climbing to the peak of Mount Rainier to watch the sunrise hand in hand, then flew to the southernmost point of the country, holding each other close on a romantic beach in Key West. At first, Stella was the picture of happiness, but after a few weeks, a weariness crept into her eyes, and she started looking at me with a strange, faint resentment. "What's wrong, honey?" I asked, noticing her mood as I handed her a freshly opened coconut. "You have the nerve to ask me that," she said, taking a sip before her eyebrows shot up. "You were so reserved on our wedding night. How did you turn into such a ravenous wolf right after—" She didn't finish her sentence. Clapping a hand over her mouth, she staggered toward the edge of the water and retched. "Are you okay? Is it heat stroke?" I rushed over, gently rubbing her back. Stella just shook her head. "I'm fine. Just feel a little nauseous. It's probably just the heat here." "That's not good. We should go to a clinic," I said, already pulling out my phone to call an Uber. No, it's nothing. It'll pass," she insisted. "This is our honeymoon. Going to a doctor is bad luck." No sooner were the words out of her mouth than she bent over and got sick again. This time, she didn't argue. She quietly went with me to the urgent care clinic. I waited anxiously by her side for the test results. A few minutes later, the doctor came out, a wide smile on his face. He had a thick Caribbean accent. "Congratulations, Papa. Your wife, she is with child." "Huh." I stared at him, completely failing to understand. Sorry, the doctor said, switching to perfect English. I said, "You're going to be a father." I don't remember what he said after that. My mind went blank, echoing with a single sentence. "You're going to be a father." Stella's hands flew to her mouth, her bright eyes shining with disbelief. She looked at me as if to confirm she hadn't misheard. I was still in a daze as we left the clinic with a prescription for prenatal vitamins. I was going to be a father. In my other life, I had never known what it was like to be a dad. We never even had that kind of marital life. I had instinctively recoiled from the idea of being intimate with Eleanor, the woman who had inexplicably become my wife, and, thankfully, she had felt the same way. After realizing I had no interest, she had seemed relieved, promising to be a faithful partner, but nothing more. "Stella, thank you," I said, pulling her into a tight hug. The words came from the bottom of my soul. "Thank you for making me a father." "You're welcome," she whispered, hugging me back, her voice laced with its familiar playful tone. "And thank you for making me a mother." Our planned honeymoon came to an early end. Back home, I took over all the household chores, threw myself into renovating our new house, and meticulously shopped for every baby and maternity product imaginable. During this time, I started feeling dizzy and nauseous myself, constantly rushing to the bathroom to be sick. Stella grew worried and insisted on taking me to the doctor. In the exam room, the doctor looked me over, a knowing smile in his eyes. He turned to Stella and said gently, "Don't worry, your husband is perfectly healthy. This is a classic case of Kuvad syndrome, or sympathetic pregnancy. It happens when a man is so deeply connected to and in love with his partner that he starts to experience similar pregnancy symptoms." "You scare me to death." Stella let out a long sigh of relief and squeezed my arm. "I'm the one who's pregnant. How are you the one throwing up more than me?" I managed a weak smile. "Didn't the doctor just say it's because I love you so much?" "Humph," she huffed, but she leaned into my side, her face glowing with a sweet, happy smile. 6. Leaving the doctor's office, I ran into someone I thought I would never cross paths with again in this lifetime, Eleanor Vance. She was sitting in the waiting area, holding a patient form. She looked more worn down than I remembered from my past life, far older than she should at her age. She saw me too. A strange look crossed her face, but I pretended not to know her, guiding Stella past her and toward the exit. "Wait!" A strained voice called out from behind us. Stella looked back curiously, then tugged on my sleeve. "Honey, I think she's calling you," she whispered. I glanced at Stella, then turned to look at Eleanor, my expression one of polite confusion. "Are you speaking to me?" Eleanor met my questioning gaze and seemed to realize that, in this reality, we were strangers. She twisted her fingers nervously, her eyes shifting to Stella. Her voice was barely audible. "You too. I'm sorry. You just look a lot like someone I used to know. There are a lot of people who look alike in the world. It's an easy mistake to make," I said with a slight nod, maintaining a careful, polite distance. "If that's all, my wife and I will be going." I had a strange feeling, a gut instinct, that she also carried the memories of that other life. I couldn't let her find out about me. "Yes. I'm sorry to bother you," Eleanor mumbled, looking flustered. "Come on, honey, let's go," Stella said, linking her arm through mine, her face beaming. "I'm craving those lemon-drenched fish tacos you make. It's so weird. All I want is sour food lately, and I'm usually all about spicy." "Maybe our little one is a boy," I chuckled, squeezing her hand. "Isn't that the old wives' tale? Cravings for sour mean a boy, spicy for a girl." My gaze fell lovingly on Stella's small, swelling belly, where the proof of our love was growing. Behind me, Eleanor's lonely figure was already out of sight and out of mind. Eleanor watched us leave, an unfamiliar ache of loss twisting in her gut. Yes, she had been reborn too. Or at least, she'd had the same dream I had. She had immediately quit her job in another city and rushed back home to marry the man she'd always loved, Brian Foster. She was certain that if she could just be by his side, she could change the terrible regret that had haunted her on her deathbed. But reality had dealt her the cruelest blow. No one knew the real cause of Brian's death in the other life. Thinking it was a health issue, she took him for multiple checkups. During one visit, they were accosted by a wealthy, lavishly dressed older woman. The woman assumed Brian was at the clinic for an STD and caused a massive scene. The commotion reached her husband, who arrived in a rage with several other men and had Brian beaten so badly he was hospitalized. He never recovered. It was a tragic parallel to the frail, broken image of the man she had held in her memory, and it broke her heart all over again. The paper she clutched in her hand was Brian's final medical report. The waiting room chair felt as cold as ice. Eleanor's eyes welled with tears. She didn't know if she had missed something or someone critically important, but in that moment, she found herself desperately missing the quiet, stable life she'd had with that other man. If she had chosen me without hesitation after her rebirth, would she be the one walking out of this hospital by my side right now? If I knew what she was thinking, I would have told her without a shred of pity, "Keep dreaming." My marriage to Eleanor had been a complete accident. I was at a work dinner with Leo when I saw her, dead drunk, passed out on a sofa in the lobby. Worried for her safety, I found the female lobby manager and suggested she help get the woman home. But Eleanor, in her drunken state, latched onto my sleeve, sobbing that I was her boyfriend. I was trapped, and with Leo drunkenly joking, "Ethan, your girlfriend is a mess, you gotta take her home," I felt I had no choice. What happened next was a suffocating nightmare. It was a mistake from start to finish. Even after we were married, I often thought that if I could turn back time, I would never, ever have gotten involved. 7. Time flew by, and soon, the day came for our child to be born. As her husband, I was in the delivery room with her. Watching Stella cry out in agony was like a knife to my heart. Helpless, all I could do was grip her hand, my own voice choked with emotion. "I'm with you, Stella. Don't be scared. Easy for you to say," she gasped, managing to glare at me even through the pain. "Why don't you try doing this?" Her pain cries were finally replaced by the clear, loud wail of a newborn. Stella collapsed back against the bed, exhausted. I felt as though all the strength had been drained from my body, and I slumped to the floor. I was a father. A title I'd thought about for months had finally become real. So this is what it felt like. A wave of pure joy washed over me. I practically crawled back to my feet and knelt by her bedside, gently wiping the sweat from her forehead. "Stella, you did it. You were so brave. Congratulations, you too. It's a boy," the doctor said, bringing the swaddled baby over to us. "You too," Stella whispered, smiling weakly as she kissed the back of my hand. "Congratulations, Dad." I smoothed her messy hair back from her face and leaned down to kiss her forehead. "And congratulations to you, Mom." After Stella's brush with the sheer intensity of childbirth, I became even more attentive. I took care of her every need, using everything I learned in our prenatal classes to care for both her and the baby, down to testing the water temperature with a thermometer before giving her a sponge bath. "Relax, I'm not made of glass. Why are you more nervous than I am?" Stella teased, letting me gently clean her. Her nose wrinkled as she looked down at her stomach. "I just wonder when my belly will go back to normal. It looks so deflated." "It's not. You're beautiful, no matter what," I said with a dopey grin. That seemed to make it worse. "Ugh, don't say that. What woman wants to hear no matter what? Of course I care about how I look. It has nothing to do with whether you love me or not." She trailed off, her expression softening. She took my hand. "Besides, I only want you to see me at my best." "Stella," I said, looking her directly in the eyes. "No matter when, no matter what, you are always the most beautiful woman in the world to me." "Oomph, you're just saying that," she grumbled, but the sweet, happy smile that spread across her face betrayed her words, bright and impossible to hide. "Hey, okay, stop looking at my stomach. It's embarrassing." After our son was born, my career took off even faster than it had in my previous life. Before I turned 30, I was promoted to department head. My old boss, Leo Martinez, was promoted to director. We were both stunned when we got the news. It wasn't until we were called in to meet the company's owner that it all made sense. I couldn't stop my jaw from dropping. "Julian, you're the owner of our company. Look at you, acting like you've never seen a rich guy before." Julian, or Mr. Croft, I should say, laughed. "I heard you had a son recently. The company has a parental benefits package, but this is an extra bonus from me personally. Also, I reviewed your file. You're a rare talent. It's a waste to keep you in your current position. As for Leo, he's given years of his life to this company. I've been looking for a reason to promote him, and this seemed like the perfect opportunity." "Well, looks like I rode your coattails on this one, kid," Leo said, clapping my shoulder proudly. "From now on, if you have any questions, you come to me. I've got years of management experience that might come in handy." Just then, an elegant, confident woman walked in. Both Leo and I straightened up respectfully. "This," Julian said, standing up, "is my wife and our company's chairwoman, Sophia Thorne. The parental benefits package was her idea. Anyway, I'll keep this short. Keep up the good work. I'll take care of your worries, so you can take care of the company's. Let's make this a win-win." "It's a pleasure to meet you both," Sophia said with a warm smile. "My husband has a good eye for talent, so I know you're both exceptional. Please continue to do your best for us." She then linked her arm through Julian's. "Ready to go? Everyone's waiting for us." "Yep, let's go." "Okay, that's all for today. Meeting adjourned." "I've got a dinner to get to," Julian said, and the two of them walked out, leaving Leo and me staring at each other in bewilderment. "Leo, what's the story with our boss?" I asked, a little unnerved as I remembered our casual conversation in his car. "You're asking me? I was just a mid-level supervisor. You think I was privy to the big boss's life story?" he said, shaking his head, looking just as clueless as I was. When I got home to the house I shared with Stella, I couldn't wait to tell her the news. Her reaction was one of pure shock. "Sophia Thorne? You mean the chairwoman of my company? How is she the wife of the owner of your company?" "What?" I stared at her, my mind reeling as she rocked our baby in her arms. Both our companies were just one giant, family-run enterprise. My exclamation startled the baby, who began to cry. Stella immediately started shushing him. "Could you keep it down?" she said, shooting me a playful glare. "You scared little Leo." "Sure, it's okay, little star, Daddy's home." Little Leo was our son's name. Leo, after my first kindest boss. His nickname was our little star. Looking at Stella's face, Radiant with happiness and glowing with a gentle, maternal light, I felt a profound sense of peace. In this life, with me by her side, she would never have to suffer. She would never fade away from a broken heart. I tucked that secret away in my soul. I rolled up my sleeves, tied an apron around my waist, and started making dinner. Late that night, in the lobby of some fancy restaurant, a haggard-looking Eleanor Vance sat alone on a sofa. Maybe she was there for a work dinner, or maybe for some other reason, but she had been drinking heavily, and her eyes were unfocused. She slumped against the cushions, occasionally glancing down the hallway, as if waiting for someone who would never appear. Brian Foster had not had an STD, but the constant harassment and violent beatings from the rich woman's husband had taken their toll. His body and spirit were broken, and he didn't survive. The husband was convicted, but thanks to his wife's money and influence, the charge was reduced to manslaughter, and his sentence was only a few years. Eleanor received a pittance in compensation, but she no longer cared about the money. Once she learned the true reason for Brian's death, her mind kept drifting back to the memory of another man, the one who had offered her quiet, unconditional support for 70 years. But that man was no longer drinking at lonely work dinners. He was at home, wearing an apron, happily cooking a delicious meal for the love of his life. The end.